Some people believe that masturbating regularly every day helps them sleep better, reduces stress, improves sexual function, and might even prevent prostate enlargement. But at the same time, many men, especially after the age of 65, start to wonder, could doing this every day be quietly disrupting my hormone balance? Am I possibly harming my prostate without even realizing it? The truth is, this issue is far more complex. It's not just about habit, it's a chain of subtle biological reactions happening inside the body, especially in an area most men don't pay attention to until something goes wrong. And the first place we need to look is the prostate gland. A small gland located just beneath the bladder, about the size of a walnut, but with a vital role in semen production, sexual regulation, urinary control, and overall pelvic comfort. If not properly cared for, the prostate can become congested, inflamed, or enlarged over time, quietly, gradually, and often without clear symptoms. So, what exactly happens inside your prostate if you masturbate every day? Is it a healthy routine, or a ticking time bomb for male health in later years? In this video, Grace, will walk you through 3 specific biological changes that can happen in your prostate if you keep up this daily habit. If you're in your 50s, or even 60 and beyond, this is something you shouldn't ignore. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment if you have questions or personal experiences to share, because this isn't just about medical facts. It's about the journey of understanding and caring for your own body. And the first mechanism, also the deepest underlying factor, is hormonal. Many people often ask, if masturbating every day is supposedly bad, then why does the body still crave it so frequently, as if it's a natural reflex? This isn't a question of morality. It's not about willpower. It's how the body operates, a purely biological response. Not emotional, but mechanical. When a man ejaculates, the level of DHT hormone in the bloodstream temporarily drops. DHT is a potent hormone converted from testosterone. It plays a key role in maintaining masculine traits like muscle mass, a deep voice, and sexual drive. But DHT is also one of the main contributors to prostate enlargement, especially when it stays elevated continuously without any breaks. That's why each ejaculation may offer a kind of hormonal break, a brief period when DHT drops, allowing the prostate to temporarily decompress. In other words, moderate masturbation, at a reasonable frequency, isn't harmful. On the contrary, it may help prevent the prolonged hormonal stimulation that quietly damages the body. But the benefits stop at moderation. Once the act becomes a daily habit, or even multiple times a day, the entire hormonal rhythm starts to dysregulate. Frequent hormonal fluctuations overload the body's endocrine system, especially the HPG axis, hypothalamus-pituitary gonads, leaving it with no time to recover. As a result, the body gradually loses its ability to self-regulate. Natural testosterone declines, brain-to-testes signaling weakens, and for men entering andropause, this decline becomes even more rapid and severe. They begin to feel tired, lose libido, become irritable, suffer from insomnia, or even experience erectile dysfunction, without understanding why. Self-pleasure isn't wrong, but without understanding the hormonal mechanism, a man can easily turn a harmless release into self-inflicted damage. Your body will still crave, still respond, it's wired that way. But behind that drive is a highly complex endocrine system, one that needs rest, balance, and care. A wise man doesn't just follow his instincts. He learns to observe his body, listen to its signals, and adjust accordingly, not to suppress desire, but to sustain vitality, control, and long-term sexual well-being, rather than being pulled into a hormonal spiral he no longer controls. Next, aside from hormonal factors, there is another equally important aspect that many people tend to overlook: the role of the pelvic muscles and blood circulation. Not everyone realizes that each ejaculation is not just a fleeting feeling of release, but a series of strong contractions happening in the pelvic floor muscles, including the levator ani, bulbospongiosus, and the muscles surrounding the prostate. These contractions are not meaningless. They act like a short burst of high-intensity exercise for the pelvic floor, helping the body to improve localized blood flow to the prostate, boost metabolic exchange within the tissue, and flush out residual waste trapped inside the glandular system. More importantly, this also nourishes the prostate tissue, maintains its elasticity, and helps prevent stiffness over time, a crucial factor in guarding against conditions like benign enlargement or chronic inflammation. In other words, good blood flow keeps the prostate a living tissue, soft, responsive, and well-tuned to neural and hormonal signals. That's why many urologists recommend regular ejaculation at a healthy frequency, especially for middle-aged men, as a way of mechanically exercising the reproductive system. However, once again, the line between moderation and overuse is very thin. If the pelvic floor muscles are repeatedly stimulated and contracting too often, without enough time to recover, mechanical stress builds up. The muscles become fatigued, stay tense, or even lose control, leading to symptoms like heaviness in the pelvic area, aches or soreness, frequent or incomplete urination, or even urinary incontinence. These symptoms aren't just physically uncomfortable. They also cause a deep hit to a man's confidence and intimacy. Older men are the most affected group. With age, the muscle fibers and nerve function in the pelvic region decline. The body's ability to bounce back from repeated stimulation slows down. If frequent masturbation continues without proper recovery, or without proper techniques to relax and stretch the pelvic area afterward, the consequences go beyond feeling sore down there. It may turn into long-term sexual dysfunction. Your body doesn't lie. Those invisible contractions are telling you a story about your circulation, tissue flexibility, and muscle endurance at this age. Listen to them, not to stop, but to adjust, to know when it's time to engage, when it's time to rest, and most importantly, when it's time to change your habits, to protect your body from silent overload. It can be said that, in addition to hormones and muscle activity, the prostate is also a specialized immune organ. In other words, it's not just a gland for producing semen, it is a biological fortress that protects the male reproductive system from harmful agents. It carries out its own local immune activities, a small yet sophisticated system that quietly maintains the balance between removing toxins and protecting glandular tissue. Under normal conditions, the prostate has a self-cleaning mechanism. Dead cells, excess proteins, and metabolic waste are byproducts of local tissue activity, and a portion of them is expelled through the act of ejaculation. This process is not only physical release, but also a form of glandular cleansing, helping the tissue avoid waste buildup and reducing the risk of low-grade chronic inflammation, a condition often overlooked in older men. However, the immune system is not a tireless machine. It needs time to regenerate, to calibrate its responses, and to repair minor internal damage. If a man ejaculates continuously without allowing the body enough time to recover between cycles, his local immune responses may become dysregulated. At that point, the immune system in the prostate may no longer accurately distinguish between cleansing and mistakenly attacking healthy tissue. This can lead to a silent but dangerous condition, prolonged low-level irritation in the glandular tissue. A man may not see anything unusual in test results or imaging, but still feel a persistent heaviness in the pelvic area, a sensation as if something is tense, stuck, or uncomfortably present without any clear explanation. This is the manifestation of an immune system out of rhythm, not strong enough to combat inflammation properly, but just noisy enough to cause chronic discomfort. You might be thinking, all of that sounds like empty theory. Words like hormones, muscle contractions, or localized immunity may seem too scientific, too far removed from your everyday life. But I can honestly say, those seemingly invisible mechanisms are operating inside your body every single day. And perhaps no one proves that more clearly than David. I once worked with a patient named David, a 71-year-old man who used to be a construction supervisor in Nevada. He was tough, resilient, always the first to rise and the last to leave the job site. But when he came to see me for the first time, David was no longer himself. He said he was waking up many times at night to urinate, always feeling like he hadn't fully emptied his bladder, and often felt a dull heaviness in his lower abdomen. He was physically exhausted, emotionally irritable. He said, "I don't feel like myself anymore. Everything just feels slower, and I don't know what to do about it." And the most important thing we discovered was this. David had completely stopped ejaculating for nearly 20 years. Why? Because after turning 55, he believed that part of life was no longer important, perhaps even inappropriate or no longer acceptable. He told me, "It's too private, too awkward." I just kept ignoring it. The exam showed that his prostate was mildly enlarged. His PSA levels were above the recommended range, and his glandular tissue showed signs of mild swelling and irregularity. It wasn't immediately dangerous, but it was clearly the result of years of neglect. We started with small changes. David was encouraged to increase light physical activity, drink enough water, and take age-appropriate prostate support supplements. But more importantly, he was asked to re-establish a regular ejaculation routine, once or twice a week, depending on how his body felt. And in just 4 months, David came back a completely different man. He was no longer irritable. His appearance alone made people say he looked like he had been rejuvenated. And sure enough, the checkup confirmed it. His PSA levels had dropped significantly. His nighttime urination had reduced. And most notably, the abdominal heaviness had almost completely disappeared. He no longer avoided questions about sexual health. In fact, he told me directly, "I never imagined something so simple could change both my body and mind this much." I've met many men in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, facing the same situation. They either ignored it completely or simply didn't know what frequency was right for their body. Not because they didn't care, but because they were too afraid to ask. So ultimately, what is the ideal balance? How can you maintain a healthy prostate without overdoing it or neglecting it altogether? How often is enough? That is a completely valid question. But just like any physiological habit, there isn't a single number that fits everyone. The right frequency depends on your age, overall health, and especially your body's natural ability to recover after each ejaculation. However, there are some general guidelines that can help you better visualize what's appropriate. First, from age 40 to 49. This is still a stage where hormone levels remain strong. The prostate is healthy, and recovery is quick. If you don't have any major health issues, 3 to 4 times per week is a reasonable frequency. It helps maintain blood circulation, cleanse the prostate, and keep your biological rhythm steady. Second stage, from age 50 to 59. This is when noticeable changes begin, hormones start to decline slightly, and recovery slows down. But if your overall health is still good and your libido is active, 2 to 3 times per week remains a safe and beneficial frequency. And finally, from age 60 onward, this is when your body needs to be listened to more carefully than ever. For those who remain physically active and don't have existing prostate issues, once or twice per week can help maintain the gland's elasticity and prevent chronic inflammation. But if your body feels tired or takes longer to bounce back, even once a week, or once every 2 weeks, can still be a safe choice. As long as it's consistent and you don't go too long without any activity. Regardless of age, the most important principle is consistency. Don't go too long without activity, but also don't push your body past its natural recovery limits. Remember this, not everyone needs the same frequency, but everyone needs to understand their own body. And adjusting your habits according to the stage of life you're in isn't just wise, it's a sign of a man who takes care of himself in a smart, intentional way. When you maintain a frequency that suits you, your entire system, from hormones, nerves, muscles, to immunity, begins to work in harmony, like a perfectly synchronized symphony. And that feeling, of being released, of being in sync, it's as if your body has been reborn. Quote, and there's still one last thing. But it's also the biggest barrier that causes many men to neglect their prostate. The psychological aspect. Throughout many years of working with older male patients, I've realized most of them don't lack information. What they lack most is the comfort to speak up and the private space to touch. This withdrawal stems from social prejudices, from the belief that an old man with desires is somehow shameful, that masturbation at this age is something to be embarrassed about, and so they choose silence. They endure and let their body slowly decline day after day. But let's be honest, masturbating after the age of 60 is not wrong. It's not strange. It's nothing to be hidden. It's simply part of maintaining basic male health. Just like taking daily walks, eating mindfully, or getting proper sleep, allowing yourself comfort is also a way to respect your body and to keep your later years light and peaceful. If you found this content helpful and meaningful, don't hesitate to hit like, share it with other men who may need it, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on other practical insights into men's health. Taking care of yourself isn't weakness. It's being proactive, courageous, and full of self-respect.